Bo Nickel and Raul Rosas Jr. are confirmed additions to UFC 4, but who else can we expect? Hello, this is the Pugilist Quran here with my top 25 predicted fighter additions for UFC 4 as of early January 2023. The general factors that go into a placement on this list are hype, divisional relevance, popularity, in-game weight class depth, pick viability, perceived ceiling, hints, news, and timing. These are just my personal predictions ordered by likelihood that a fighter will be added in an update, with a longer-term scope taken increasingly towards the bottom of the list. Of course, I do not expect the majority, let alone all of these fighters to be added, but we may get a few before support for this game ends and we move on to UFC 5. 5 of my previous top 25 predictions, which were tweeted on September 9th, 2022, have since been added. Alex Pereira, Rafael Fiziev, Merab Dvalishvili, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Mateusz Gamrot. For this list, I considered active UFC fighters fighting from flyweight to heavyweight. There are several tough calls to make, so please share who you would swap or add to this subjective list. Number 25 belongs to flyweight prospect Muhammad Mokaev, who is currently ranked at number 14 in his division. Muhammad boasts an unbeaten professional record of 9 wins and 1 no contest with 6 finishes, along with an extensive 23-0 amateur career. At only 22 years of age, Mokaev, born in Dagestan and raised in England since the age of 12, has already begun his ascent towards the top of his weight class with a 3-fight win streak since debuting with the UFC in March of 2022. The Punisher is one to watch at 125 pounds and is a possible medium to long-term addition to UFC 4's sparse flyweight division, which only features 15 fighters at the moment. Sitting at number 24 is Michel Pereira, the number 14 ranked welterweight and fun, flashy striker. With a record of 28 wins, 16 of those being finishes, and 11 losses, the 6-2 UFC fighter has a great opportunity to advance up the rankings and knock on the door to contendership with his upcoming fight against number 8 ranked Sean Brady. This showboat definitely could have been higher on this list and should get boosted even further up if he gets the win in his next fight. However, the more unique aspects of Demolidor's game that made him a fan favorite would be hard to do justice in this current iteration of the EA Sports UFC series. On the other hand, he is a less wild fighter in his most recent bouts where he has been a more measured, technical striker. 23rd is 17-2 rising bantamweight Said Nurmagomedov. Don't let the last name misguide you. Said is not a grappling-heavy fighter like Khabib, who he's not related to. Rather, he fills a Zabit Magomed-Sharipov-sized hole in my heart with his flashy kicking. Nurmagomedov is 6-1 in the UFC with an even spread of 2 KOs, 2 submissions, and 2 decisions, with 3 of those finishes coming in the very first round. A flashy and well-rounded fighter like Said would be a very fun addition to the roster. Next, Terrence T-Rex McKinney is number 22 on my list. This high-octane lightweight has a 3-1 record in the UFC, with all of those fights ending in a finish within the first round, including a lightweight best 7-second finish over Matt Frevola. McKinney's loss to Dober came in a fight where it looked like he was actually going to get Drew out of there early. With over 100,000 Twitter followers as a testimony to his action-filled style, 13-4 T-Rex could eventually be added to the game. 21st place belongs to number 11 ranked UFC middleweight Andre Muniz. Riding a 9-fight win streak, Muniz is climbing up the ladder. 5-0 in the UFC with 3 subs, including a statement round 1 inverted armbar win over 4th degree black belt and former Strikeforce middleweight champion Ronaldo Souza. Sergipano is 23-4 overall with 19 finishes, 15 of which were by submission. If Muniz continues his winning ways, it is possible that virtual opponents will have to guard their arms against him in UFC 4. Originally in my 21st spot was 24-2 new wave lightweight Damir Ismagulov. Damir was on a 19-fight win streak prior to his first UFC loss opposite Armen Tsarukyan on December 17, 2022. However, Ismagulov, who is 5-1 in the UFC, announced his retirement on January 1st due to health problems. My 20th place prediction is 20-3 bantamweight Ricky Simon. Ranked number 10 in the UFC and on a 5-fight win streak, Ricky could make his way towards the top of the division. He has a 2018 win over current 135-pound contender Merab Dvalishvili with a technical submission win that is in the books as taking place 5 minutes into the third and final round, the latest finish by time remaining at 0 seconds in the UFC. Simon is one to keep an eye out for in the bantamweight division and could bolster the weight in-game in the future. Dricus Still Knox du Plessis occupies the 19th spot on this list. The South African middleweight has an 18-2 record and is on a 6-fight win streak. Dricus last submitted Darren Till via rear naked choke in the 3rd round at UFC 282. With an upcoming fight against 5th-ranked Derek Brunson in March, Still Knox stands to move up from his number 10 ranking and potentially be added to the game. At 18th place is Matheus Nicolau. The 5th-ranked UFC flyweight has 19 wins, 2 losses, and a draw on his record. He is 7-1 in the UFC and is currently on a 6-fight win streak. As mentioned before, the flyweight division in UFC 4 only has 15 fighters, so a rising ranked fighter like Nicolau could definitely help boost the 125 ranks. I've placed the Tarantula at number 17. Jalen Turner is a 13-5 lightweight whose 6'3" frame definitely makes him stand out. He also happens to be 6-2 in the UFC, with all those wins being finishes, and one of his losses being his promotional debut up a weight class against Vicente Luque. On a 5-fight win streak, this number 10 ranked tall 155er could definitely be an interesting pick in UFC 4. Hopefully, unlike Adesanya, Turner's long reach doesn't result in him suffering from frame penalties if he is added. Umar Nurmagomedov, cousin of Khabib, occupies the 16th spot on this list. At 15-0, this number 11 ranked bantamweight definitely could rise to the top of the division, soon propelled by his sambo and connection to Khabib. Umar already has 1.2 million followers on Instagram. He is 3-0 in the UFC with an upcoming fight on January 14th against Barcelos. This 5'8", 135er could become a future champion and definitely carries some great expectations. Getting into UFC 4 should be an easier task than securing bantamweight gold, of course. Mr. Camel Shorts Bryce Mitchell is number 15 on this list. Although he had his first professional career loss, dropping his record to 15-1, Thug Nasty is a relatively known fighter with over 400,000 Instagram followers and a notable decision win over Edson Barboza. He is currently ranked number 11 in the featherweight division. Also, the man he lost to, number 8 ranked featherweight Ilia Topuria, is no pushover by any means, and while Bryce did bring up the idea of retiring immediately after the loss, he has since chalked up those sentiments to being said in the heat of the moment. This Arkansas grappler with his camo shorts would be an iconic addition to the game. Featuring an identical record to Bryce is number 14 Sean Brady. 15-1 with his lone loss coming in his last fight to Bully B Bilal Muhammad. Brady looks to bounce back in his upcoming fight against number 24 on this list, Michel Pereira. Currently ranked 8 in the UFC's welterweight division, some of Sean's notable wins were against Jake Matthews and Michael Chiesa. Good luck to the EA Sports developers in charge of recreating his tattoos if he were to be added. Number 13 is Roman the Caucasian Dolidze. 12-1 and on a 4-fight win streak with an upcoming bout against number 4 ranked Marvin Vettori, Roman could definitely rise towards the top of the middleweight picture with a win. With a sizable following of over 100,000 Instagram followers and the skills to boot, Dolidze could be a nice well-rounded middleweight addition. 12th on this list is Movsar Evloev, a 16-0 featherweight who is currently ranked number 10 in the UFC. His UFC run thus far consists of 6 decision wins, notably defeating Danny Gay and Hakeem Dawodo in his last 2 bouts in June 2021 and 2022 respectively. While more casual UFC fans may not recognize him quite yet, Movsar has quite the online following with 1.2 million Instagram followers. Keep an eye out for Evloev to possibly climb even further up the featherweight mountain and make his way into the game. Andrew Martin Dober, more commonly known as Drew Dober and unofficially nicknamed Handsome Squidward, resides in the 11th spot on this list. Dober is 26-11 and is ranked 14th in the UFC's lightweight division. He has 12 wins and 7 losses along with 1 no contest throughout his run in the promotion. He has a 75% finish rate in those UFC wins with 8 KOs and 1 submission. You can expect fireworks when a fight involves Dober. With his granite chin and powerful hands, Drew Dober might make his way into the current game and provide for some fun scraps. Now we are entering the top 10 of my predicted fighter additions with Brandon Royval. 14-6 overall and 4-2 in the UFC, this number 4 ranked flyweight could really help flesh out the division. While Brandon does have a couple losses to Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja, who are currently ranked number 1 and 2 in flyweight, he did submit number 3 Kai Kara France in the prior fight, and is on a 2-fight win streak since. In terms of both the actual UFC rankings and this list, Brandon Royval is the top ranked flyweight that is yet to be added to the game. Sean Strickland, ranked number 8 in the UFC's welterweight division, is 9th on this list. This very brash 170-pounder is 25-5 overall, as well as 12-5 in the UFC. Despite being on a 2-fight losing streak with a KO loss to the middleweight champion Alex Pereira and a close split decision loss to Jared Cannonier, Strickland is a relatively well-known fighter. Even with his seemingly common suspensions on social media, Sean has amassed around 50,000 followers and made a name for himself with his personality and antics. With a high striking volume and jab-heavy style, Sean could be a nice pick to technically box their way to decision wins on UFC 4. Adrian Yanez is 8th overall and the highest placed bantamweight on this list. With a pro record of 16 wins and 3 losses, Adrian's slick boxing skills have served him well enough to be 5-0 in the UFC and ranked 13th. Yanez has an 80% KO rate in the UFC and a 75% finish rate overall, despite being ranked lower at the moment than other bantamweights on this list like Umar Nurmagomedov and Ricky Simon. Adrian has a great opportunity to catapult into the bantamweight top 5 with a fight booked against number 6 Rob Font on April 8th on UFC 287. Adrian Yanez has a chance to punch his ticket to the upper echelon of the 135 division, along with improving his chances of being added to the game. Number 7 is also, coincidentally, the number 7th ranked welterweight in the UFC, Jeff Neal. Hands of Steel has a 15-4 overall record and is 7-2 in the UFC with a 71% finish rate in those top promotion wins. Since losing to Stephen Thompson and Neil Magny by decision, Jeff Neal is on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Santiago Ponzinibbio and Vicente Luque. In January 2019, Jeff also defeated Bilal Muhammad by decision in a 3-rounder, so much for MMA math. Jeff Neal has an upcoming rebooked bout against number 10 Shavkat Rakhmonov in what looks to be a risky fight. If the UFC 4 were to add any more welterweights in the near future, Hands of Steel is my top prediction. 19-3 Arman Tsarukyan occupies the 6th spot on this list. Ahel Kalakets is ranked number 9 and is 6-2 in the UFC, with his 2 losses coming to top lightweights Mateusz Gamrot and the champion Islam Makhachev. After slightly controversially not getting the nod in a close fight with Gamrot, Arman wrestled Damir Ismagulov to a clear decision win. Tsarukyan is a figurehead in the new generation of lightweights, so it wouldn't be much of a surprise at all to see this well-rounded grappler make his way to the virtual octagon. Time for the top 5, with the 5th spot belonging to Ilia Topuria. Ranked 9th in the featherweight division, El Matador is 13-0 overall and 5-0 in the UFC with 4 finishes. Last time out at UFC 282, Topuria submitted fellow rising featherweight Bryce Mitchell in a dominant performance. The Georgian has been making a name for himself with currently over 550,000 Instagram followers. Aside from his ascent in the 145 ranks, a grudge match with Paddy Pimblett at lightweight is a future possibility. Ilia Topuria is an exciting, well-rounded fighter. Only 1 fight out of his 13 needed the judges. This 5th place spot is well-deserved. 4th on the list is heavyweight Sergey Pavlovich. This 17-1 Russian is 5-1 in the UFC, losing his November 2018 debut to Alistair Overeem in the first round, but since racking up 5 first-round KO stoppages. Sergey is ranked 3rd in the division, as finished number 7 Derek Lewis and number 5 Tai Tuivasa in his last 2 bouts under a minute each. Pavlovich only has 3 decision wins to his name, with the remaining 14 all being KO wins in the first round. Sergey may find himself charging into UFC 4 soon, just like he charges into his opponents. Marking the start of my top 3 is Jamal Hill. The 11-1 light heavyweight is a heavy-handed fighter with 4 KOs to his name in his 5-1 UFC run. Sweet Dreams headlines UFC 283, where he fights Glover Teixeira for the vacant 205-pound belt in Rio de Janeiro. Alex Pereira, who was added a bit later than I expected, got added to UFC 4 just before his title fight with Israel Adesanya, which he went on to win. In similar fashion, I expect the developers to have prioritized getting number 7 ranked Hill added quickly, as he could become the next champion. Finally, we have arrived at the top 2 of my list. These 2 fighters were actually confirmed to be additions to UFC 4 on September 29, 2022 during the Dana White Contender Series Season 6 finale, so their order is quite interchangeable. I'm surprised they haven't been added yet after the announcement. Raul El Nino Problema Rosas Jr. is second on this list. The 18-year-old bantamweight and Contender Series alumni is the youngest fighter in UFC history. His record stands at 7-0, which consists of 5 decisions and 1 KO, along with a first-round rear naked choke in his debut opposite Jay Perrin. There must be a lot of pressure handling everything that comes with competing with the UFC at such a young age. I hope it all goes well for him. Raul Rosas Jr. and his grappling skills are set to be headed to the UFC 4's 135-pound division. At the top of this list is 3-0 185-pounder Bo Nickal. While he has yet to have a fight under the UFC banner, having to withdraw due to injury ahead of UFC 282, Bo is a hyped prospect with serious wrestling credentials behind him. He fought twice on the Contender Series, both submissions in around 1 minute into the first round, before getting signed to the UFC at an astonishingly low 3 pro fights. Nickal wrestled from the age of 5, eventually leading to achievements such as 3 NCAA championships and a final collegiate record of 120 wins and 3 losses. Despite facing difficulty finding a spot on the USA wrestling squad, he managed to win the 2019 US Open Championship along with the 2019 Under-23 Freestyling Wrestling World Championship. Afterwards, he made the transition into MMA with a couple amateur bouts in late 2021, with all 3 of his professional fights taking place between June through September 2022. Bo Nickal seems to understand that his wrestling alone won't be enough for his ambitious goals of becoming champ and pound-for-pound #1. It'll be interesting to see how these 2 Contender Series alumni are rated in-game with so little, if any, top promotion fight time. Keep an eye out for Bo Nickal's career and his addition to the game. He seems to pack some nice power in his hands to go along with his elite wrestling. Thanks for sticking around through this list of my top 25 predicted fighter additions for UFC 4. Let us know about any substitutions or swaps you would make. Take care.